Well, it's another Monday, and that means only one thing. We're talking dogs, and this week we're talking 𝘁𝗸𝗶. Of course, the friends of Limerick, Irish St. 𝘁𝗶𝗶, kicked off at Limerick on Saturday night. We saw some brilliant performances. Fastest of the night was 𝘁𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶, and we're going to get in depth, take a look at all the action, and talk about perhaps the competition as a whole. I'm joined once again by the 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶 Tommy Lyons, and for the first time joining us, our Limerick correspondent, a very disappointed Tyrone man after the action over the weekend. But Peter Farrell, welcome to Talking 𝘁𝗁𝗶. Good to see you. You're going to get over the football and you're going to talk dogs instead.
Yeah, you said you weren't going to talk about that, Ian, but
I did. But you know what? It'd be unlike me not to use a bit of ammunition.
I know it was a brilliant night's race. There was 12 brilliant heats. 𝘁𝗶𝗴𝗶 Kingdom, obviously the standout, Limerick sensation, but there's a few upsets as well. So all the makings of a good classic going forward, I would say.
It certainly does, Tommy. It is one of those classics, and it's one of those tracks where it does take dogs one or two runs to get the grips with it. We saw that in one or two of the heats. I suppose fresh off the bat, being based down in Cork, and we're just after seeing the laurels. The first heat was won by Blast Off Fire, a dog with Limerick form on his card, and it was very evident. Rail like a cat, looked really at home in the place, and claiming a second career success. Hard to believe it's only a second career success, the laurels runner-up, but a good victory to kick off proceedings and set the tone for what should be a tremendous competition.
Yeah, of course they will, Ian. Half the field from the laurels final actually contested the first round of the 𝘁𝗁𝗶𝗶 on Saturday night. What happened on Saturday night in Blast Off Fire's heat is what I thought might happen in the laurels final. It kind of just opened up for him, and he was drawing one in the final of the laurels as well. It just worked out nicely the way he came. He missed it slightly, but just had the position and the tracking ability. And of course, that first bend, it's very important that you can learn to run that bend. His bit of experience showed, just as you said, and he took it up going down or into the back straight, and he won it fairly handy in the end. It's only a length over Massachusetts, but at the same time, he was the winner from the second bend. We know he's a strong dog. We've seen that in the laurels. I'm sure the locals in Limerick know him better than I do. It was a nice start to the night. Obviously there's no bookies there, so we don't know in terms of prices what they might or might not have been. But it looked a good opportunity for him to get a winning start. Beach Avenue missed the kick. I got a little bit of trouble. The strong runner finished fourth. He contested the laurels and actually showed quite a bit of pace in the early stages of it as well. But that was a good start to the night. Blast Off Fire, as you say. When you look at it, you can be quite dogmatic about things and say, "Oh, this dog can't win a laurels based on based on what it did in the first round." I'd like to give them a second round. I'd like to see them around the track once more, just to see what they might do. There was a dog that caught my eye. We'll see it in one of the later. I'll talk about it later one day. So a couple of dogs that caught my eye that were beaten. So hopefully we'll, it'll open up a bit more, I think, as next week's heats take place.
Yeah, no problem. We'll definitely be talking about one or two. A few certainly caught my eye. Peter, it was very much a case of shadow boxing for a lot of these dogs. You could tell even the likes of the 𝘁𝗴𝗴𝗶𝗴, who was anti-post favourite, just looked badly in need of the run, just looked a bit off the pace. But that'll come in the next few weeks. I'm going to put you on the spot now and say, just don't take the opening round into hand, but take everything into consideration. If you were pricing up this morning, what would you make favourite?
New sensation, 100% for me. He is a fresh dog. He's coming into it as a fresh dog. Obviously a bit unlucky in both Irish and English derbies, but he done what he had to do on Saturday night. He did take a slight step right coming out of traps and brushed knocked by flight, but he went about his business brilliant after that. He done a 17:39 split time to the third corner. It was the best of the night. Didn't come home as well as the likes of 𝘁𝗴𝗴𝗶 Kingdom. You would expect 𝘁𝗴𝗴𝗶 Kingdom to be flying at home anyway, being a six-bend dog, but I definitely think he's a dog that will shake 29-30 going forward. He's definitely my outright favourite anyway going forward.
Yeah, it's something we've referenced through the English Derby and Irish Derby. He's not quite the finished article, but the penny's going to completely drop one of these days, and by all accounts it was a very impressive opening round effort. We know the ability he has. He's an absolute aeroplane, no question about that. And a dog that certainly looked comfortable around Limerick. Tommy, yourself, what do you reckon a favourite? New in session as well, or do you go back to the likes of a 𝘁𝗴𝗴𝗶𝗴 or anything else that perhaps you thought might start favourite next week?
I wouldn't have new in session too short now in terms of favourite at the top of the market. I'll be a small bit concerned that it's only one run. I'd like to see it again next week. We've seen this dog in the past that he clearly hasn't been himself. In terms of Irish Derby, even English Derby, there were signs of it coming back to form. Maybe this is it. Maybe he is back to form. This is where he'll really show us. He's probably favoured, but I'd be wary about backing him too short at this stage. I'm not sure if we'll have an option. Maybe somebody will price it up. I see Beth Brown were doing the heats for last Saturday night, and they will be doing them again for this Saturday night. I don't know. It's one run. That doesn't convince me. I know he has the ability, but I just like to see it again.
Okay. On terms of the night, we spoke about it, 𝘁𝗵𝗴𝗶𝗴𝗶, the fastest of the night. And no surprise, Peter, when he hit the front early. We know exactly how fast this greyhound is. They stepped him up to 6 bends because he just wasn't getting the look over 4 bends. Perhaps confidence was an issue at that point. After a good campaign over 6 bends, it seems the confidence is back with this fellow. Obviously, going forward, he's going to struggle to lead in the hot company, but he's certainly a greyhound with the engine to go close in this Ledger.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't actually pull away until the third corner of the last night, and then he won by 8 lengths, I think it was. I think Paul Hennessy talked about it in his podcast a couple of weeks ago with Barry on Beach Avenue. She was stepped up to 6 bends in the Cambridgeshire and then came back to 4 bends in the Laurels, and she flew through that. But I know next week he's in along with Ewan Session and 𝘶𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶. Not taking nothing away from the dog, but I don't know if he'll be able to compete with those dogs early on.
And we're also at a stage, of course, from next week. We're down to 48, of course. It's a lovely setup, nice numbers with the 12 heats on Saturday night, 4 to qualify, but it's now 3 to qualify the whole way through. The likes of those dogs, the dogs that are going to be coming off the pace, they're going to need the gaps to open at the right time.
Yeah, they'll need the gaps to open. Definitely. He is a dog that's going to be hard to keep out of the top 3 every week. That's the only thing. He does take off at the bottom bend. He done a 17:41 on Saturday night. Whether that's good enough to shake a Ledger, I'm not sure. But yeah, he's going to be thereabouts. No doubt about that. Tommy,
your take on it?
Yeah, look, as I say, I'm not convinced that I have a handle on the Ledger after one round. Some of the more interesting ones to me were actually beaten. Yeah, the 𝘁𝗵𝗴𝗶𝗴𝗶 dog is ferociously fast, and they did it from trap 4. In fairness, and it's not like they were complete loafers in the race. Like Amazing Alice and 𝘁𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶, the likes of that were in the race. I thought that was a decent heat, and I was quite impressed. His section was okay. I don't know.
Yeah, he did a 285 to the first section. I didn't get the second one, but when you consider the next night he's up against Ewan Session and 𝘶𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶, both who to the eye seem to do everything right. Ewan Session does a 291 and 𝘶𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶 is just a spot slower than 𝘁𝗵𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 with a 286. In fairness to the 3 big guns in that heat 3 in the next round, they are, like, if there was betting, it'd be very much those 3 dominating the market, because with due respect to the likes of Nidge, Vigorous Scooby and 𝘁𝗵𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶, they really should struggle against this level of opposition.
He did a 5:31, Ian. I think that the 𝘁𝗵𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 did the last day, which is, as far as I can see on the sheet I have in front of me, that's the fastest time of the round. Yeah, look, it's a different test when you've got Ewan Session in there now, and you've got the 𝘁𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 dog in there, who actually ran a cracker in the first round. Look, I think he's an absolute certainty to qualify next week. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, I think that it's almost ideal, because I think he'll sit between the 2 going to the bend. Might even be able to hold his own. Look, I say, I think the 3 of them will qualify. We hope they do, because it'll make for a hotter third round, quarterfinals heats. But yeah, I'm just struggling with a handle on the first round. I say I was watching dogs as much to see how they tackled the first bend and how they race the track in general, just to see what I think. 𝘁𝗵𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 he's had got 19 runs and plenty of experience. He's not going to have an issue at this stage. That was a nice first run. I wouldn't be ruling him out as winning it now, to be honest about it. And he's still quite fresh.
Yeah, only 19 runs, of course. He's an April 18, so 2.5 years of age. 19 runs, certainly not overly raced. But I suppose that can be said for a lot of the runners in this competition, given the 3-month layoff we had earlier in the year. Peter, of the heat winners, we're going to speak now, because I think the real sort of meeting the bones is the dogs that were defeated. But of the heat winners, was there any others that really caught the eye?
𝘶𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶 for me. I have a bit of a soft spot for this dog. I backed him to win the Irish Derby. Obviously, it didn't go right for him there, but I think on his days, he's as fast as anything in the country. I mean, he's broken 28 seconds in Cork, and he's 28-22 around 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴, Project Stakes finalist. He won the Munster Juvenile Cup. I think the problem with him is probably his consistency. He doesn't do it enough. But on his day, as I said, no, he's definitely a dog that could compete with anything, and I think he's in with a real shout. I mean, he didn't do the time perhaps on Saturday night, but I think the track was slowing down.
Yeah, it was still the third fastest time though, wasn't it? 29.81.
Yeah, 29.81. But for a dog to get out in front the way he did, I thought that he would have went closer to the 29.60 mark. But again, he is coming in a fresh dog, as I say. Went out of the Derby early, went out of the plate. So yeah, he's definitely one I'd be keeping an eye on.
He's a dog that's actually, I often confused him in the years over the year with Black Parachute, his little brother. They're very similar type dogs. You use the word consistency. I suppose that's the issue with the likes of these dogs. If you're going to be having a bet anti-post, certainly you want him to find a bit more consistency at boxes. As we referred to, he's in that hot heat the next night, but it really is the big three against three minnows, and you'd fancy him to qualify, Peter.
I would fancy him, yeah, definitely. He's probably a tricky enough draw, trap 5. He's outside of Ballymach Kingdom. I think he'll clear him early on. I think New Sensation's a dog to beat in the heat, but Rafco Fox, I don't think he'll be far away. And again, he's a dog that probably stays 5.75 yards as well, so he could keep qualifying.
Yeah, no question he'd stay at 5.75 yards. You'd imagine, actually, all going well in the Ledger, that the likes of the Shelbourne Open 600 would be right up his street as well. The longer run to the corner, sort themselves out, and those Ballydoyle honeys, like, they just stay. Tommy, yourself, anything the catch your eye of the winners that we haven't mentioned thus far?
I liked. There was a couple of nice performances. I thought Mina Maestro ran fine, ran decent. English Popeye actually ran a good race. A dog I don't really know much about, to be quite honest about it. I thought that ran very well. I tell you, when I was watching the heat results coming through, as they were coming through on Saturday night, I was kind of just wondering what the story was with the track. Maybe Peter knows a bit better. I thought there seemed to be an inconsistency in terms of the clocks and that sort of stuff. I couldn't get a handle on it because of that. You know, dogs, like you said, Peter, there a minute ago, you know, a dog like Blackpool Fox pops out and you expect him to do a big time. And then you see the clock and you're going, yeah, okay. And then there are decent times, 29.67s and 29, you know, the light from Ballymach Kingdom and the other dog. I don't know. I couldn't get a handle on it. Ballymach 𝗶𝗴𝗶, she got a little bit of trouble, all right, in the 30.04. Maybe that's the limit of what Ballymach 𝗶𝗴𝗶 can do now. Maybe, well, probably 20 spots faster. I just found it hard to figure out what the story was with the track in terms of clocks. You know, I don't think I'm going to read too much into the final times after
it's probably
one.
worth pointing out that Ballymach 𝗶𝗴𝗶 was in the very final heat, and we did speak to Dawn, who was on track, and she said that it was absolutely bitterly cold at Limerick on Saturday night, and perhaps in those circumstances the track probably was going back through the evening. That seemed to be the trend. Is that your take on it, Peter?
Yeah, definitely. If it was cold, it's those times are going to slow down. I thought Ballymach 𝗶𝗶𝗶 actually ran a cracker in the last heat, 30.04 at that, heat 12. Brilliant run. I mean, she was never in any danger of getting caught. Yeah, but in terms of the times, that's just, cold night, the track's going to slow down. It's inevitable.
Well, I was talking to a fellow who was there, and he said to me it was easy to social distance because they're all sitting out in their vans. It was so cold.
But it is one of those places. It's very open, and considering the time of the year, it's something to keep in mind going forward. Perhaps it's going to be one for the hardy dogs. That it's not the speedsters. They're going to get it to the front and just coast home. You want to be looking out for, but the dogs that are hardened and that will stay. Looking at the results. Funny enough, there were a few fine displays from females. There's only 5 of them left. The last bitch to win the competition was Loughnane Bridie back in 2013, and prior to that, Batty Spirit back in 1995. 2 absolute superstar names. But if you look at the 5 bitches that are left, there's some real talent there. You have Ballymach 𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶, of course, who we've spoken of. 𝘁𝗶𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶, of course, who was a Laurel's finalist. Mina Miracle, the Derby runner-up. You have Unlock, and I'm missing one, and bear with me. But even just those 4 that I've mentioned, hugely talented individuals. And Amazing Alice, who lost her stride at the second bend briefly, seemed to check her stride and stayed on well to be beaten 12.5 lengths, needless to say, by Ballymach Kingdom. But I think there's a big runner too in this lady. She's very fast. But 5 very talented ladies. Could you see those 5 going far in the competition, lads?
Yeah, look, I don't want to be too biased here, but I actually was quite impressed with Toomey's bitch, which is 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶. She was third, beating a short head in the length. It wasn't a hot heat, it was 30-34, but I just thought that everywhere she tried to get a gap, it just closed. Even she was badly squeezed in the first few yards, and yet she battled all the way to the line to try to get through. I think she has, we talked about in the Laurels that she didn't have the early pace for the Laurels, but that's a really fast 5.25. I think she has a bit more early pace that can keep her handy in the Ledger. I just watched her closely, of course, having a bit of connection locally, but she just every time straight for the traps got badly squeezed. Every time she tried to make a little bit of progress, she got badly squeezed. And even at the line, she was still trying hard. Time was very poor at 30-34, but I mean, the circumstances dictated that.
She got squeezed at the third bend as well. Like that rock first Mike was upper inside, and he's an aeroplane, and she brushed him off and she dug in and she went away from him up the home straight. So big run by 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗶 in defeat. Peter, five bitches or something that caught you eye. Like obviously you'll be keeping an eye on Mina Miracle. Like she's a Northern Raider, Derby runner up, obviously 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗶 winner. She ran a fine race in defeat. It's her third track in 3 different competitions. Ballymactaz, you already said you were impressed with. Unlock. She has some engine.
Just back to Mina Miracle. I'd be surprised if she goes any further. I mean, she's 11 weeks on the trot going to Shelbourne Park there since basically the racing started back. She had a week off, went to Mullingar for another 4 weeks, and now she's straight on to Limerick. I think somewhere along the line, tiredness is going to creep into her. Unlock, Brendan Matthews. She's one of the fastest females in the country, I would say, and she checked at the first corner on Saturday night, and she just came through them, like a knife through butter. I would
she was
say
in the 10th heat. It was one of the later heats. So the time 30:18. When you consider the ground she gave the leaders, it was a big run.
Yeah, and she's coming in a very, very fresh bitch as well. Those cold nights aren't going to bother her. She's going to stay the 600 yards plus as well. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out on her and Brendan Matthews as well. He's had plenty of success in Limerick in the past with 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗶, and he knows how to win these big stakes. I'm not saying she's going to win it, but I would definitely see her at the business end.
Yeah, that's worth pointing out. He's won 2 Kirby's, of course, with the Boyle Sports dog and, of course, 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝗴𝗶. And Unlock certainly has the engine to go far, Tommy. It's whether she's sharp enough. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think she'll be fine, Ian, to be honest about it. Like she liked the race. She's entitled to be improving. She's going to improve with every run. I liked her actually. I thought she showed ferocious pace. I don't think what I took from the first round that there wasn't a huge amount of early pace in the competition. Not blistering early pace like we saw in the Derby, like we saw in the Laurels. There wasn't that type of early pace in the competition in general. There are a few dogs with good early dash, but I think it'll suit. I think the competition will actually suit them. There'll be plenty of dogs at the latter end of the competition who would be just out and out stayers. She's not going to compete early. Another dog that caught my eye in that new in session heat, that Not Boy Flight. Again, I suppose there's a slight link to Kevin McLean to be regulars at Youghal track, but Not Boy Flight. They heard that he's had the Not Boy Cathy bitch. She was a real smart bitch herself. She did well under the 29 seconds around Curraheen Park. He went to unbeaten through the Casco, and that was the first one in open company, proper open company. Like to get a little bit of a bump from you in session early, to run the way he did. I think he'll travel the length and breadth of the country to find the dog that will rail as tightly as this fella. He takes the paint off the rails. It's only his 5th ever run in the first round of a Ledger. He's beaten 6 lengths, yes. He never really threatened to beat New in session, but I thought it was a fine run. Desperately wants trap one, and that might be a bit of an issue as the competition goes on. But Not Boy Flight is a dog I think we'll hear plenty more about in the coming months, maybe, if not just weeks, in the coming months.
For the love of no money, I can't find him on my card. I don't know where he's gone to. He's disappeared.
I thought like Tommy I thought he was very impressive. I actually think he brushed the rail too at the first corner.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
Hit the rail a bit.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was certainly referencing commentary. That he may have brushed the rail. He seemed to check. So I didn't see it now myself, but it was definitely referencing. He's only a December 18. He's only a youngster. Kevin McLean is no fool with a greyhound. He's certainly he's had some very fast dogs in the past, and he seems to have a good standard of greyhound around him. This fellow was 4 from 4 coming into the Ledger, so he's a dog certainly to keep in mind going forward, be it in this competition or indeed, given his age, he could well turn up at the old what used to be the National Puppy Stake or something like that.
Yeah, look, he's a dog that's broken 29 seconds in Thurles. that in itself is a fair recommendation of any greyhound, that he's going to go a long way. I know the connections think always thought a huge amount about him. I'm pretty sure that I have to do the Barry Drake here. I'm pretty sure he tried around y'all. Yeah, he did indeed. 17.90 in his first mark in his card. Like it told us plenty of what we needed to know. Like, he's a proper dog.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, no, certainly a dog to keep an eye out for. So we are going to get stuck into these dogs that caught the eye, the ones in defeat. I have my own thoughts. I'm sure Tommy's probably going to steal my thunder. But Peter, of the dogs that ran well in defeat, is there something that really caught your eye, one that you'll definitely be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, Priceless Jet for me. He
there you go. There you go.
First one in. I'd say we were all lined up to mention Priceless Jet, were we?
Yeah.
I'm just glad you asked me first. I know he ran a Mina Maestro's heat, I think it was, and he was running over the top of both.
He absolutely flew into the third turn, was forced to check up, and then stayed on again. I know that Paul Hennessy thinks the world of this greyhound. He has done for quite some time, and there was nights where I was going, I just don't see it. And then I saw it, and he's shown some real good form in recent times. And indeed, it's noted that he did a 28.31 at Limerick in September 5th, and that was a massive run on the night. He's probably a dog that really is suited to Limerick. A big run by him, Priceless Jet. What was it you really liked about him, Peter?
I just did the backstreet pace. It was like something similar to Toolmaker Sydney in the Derby. He was running over the top of those dogs, forced to check. But again, 28.30 in Limerick takes some doing. And I think the next Saturday night he's in trap 6, which is perfect because 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶 in trap 5.
His brother, 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶.
Yeah, he's nap material for me the next night. I can definitely see him going a long way. And of course, Paul Hennessy's won three leaders in the past as well. So.
Yeah, four of course. He's also won. No, beg your pardon. No, I mean for Brian and Kathleen Murphy, he's also won with Price's Brandy a couple of years back, and Price's Jet, his namesake. Certainly a dog worth considering. 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶, actually, his little brother, is a dog I've often been a fan of. I thought he ran well the other night. It was one of the later enough heats. A fast greyhound, but as you say, he's in trap 5. It's a concern because that 5th heat, like, it's a fair call for you to say nap material. Like, that's a pretty hot heat considering which is Ethiopia, Ballymac even that no green dye can run a bit. Ignore his run in the opening round. He can certainly go faster than that. And 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶, who we've spoken of, who did 29.19, it's worth pointing out, in the second round of the Irish Derby. Tommy, should I say, Priceless Jet, we've spoken of him. He really caught your eye too.
He did. I have a small concern, of course. There aren't that many wide seats, so he's almost certain to get, if he keeps qualifying, he's almost certain to get trap 6. Just wondering, is he the most natural wide seat in the world? Now there was a dog holding the middle line in front of him going to the bend the last night, and he moved. Maybe it was just clever tracking. He went to go inside that dog because maybe it was the most prudent way to go at the time. But down to third bend, he went to go inside as well. Now, again, it might be just the position he was in. He might just be a clever tracker, that he might think that, this is the way I can get by. He's actually assessing the situation. But it's that, or he's not the most natural wide seat in the world now. But and he will be getting trap 6 almost every night if he keeps qualifying. But I just love the raw pace. He's only had that was only his 8th run the other night. I think he's a serious animal. And actually, do you know what? The heat the next night is a good test of him. It is a good test. Ballymac is a dog I thought just wasn't himself the other night. Now, it was a rough heat in the sense that he didn't get much of a run. He, a bit like the bitch that Mean Miracle that Peter was talking about, he's had quite a bit of running recently. He's been an absolute credit to Connections. This might just be a stretch too far. He is a November 16 whelp as well, so he's going to be enjoying his 4th birthday if he keeps qualifying through the heats. He might be celebrating him in Limerick some night. But no, which is Ethiopia? I have a funny feeling that she could go close to leading next week. You mightn't read it off her card, but she has that little bit of early dash. Ringwood size inside. Inconsistency in terms of braking. I thought which is Ethiopia might lead. It'll be a good test of Priceless Jet. I expect him to come out on top. A bit like Peter, I do expect him to come out on top. But I'm just wondering.
Well, if which is Ethiopia does lead, it'll be a fair achievement to come out on top.
Oh yeah, but you've got to be a potential ledger winner to beat her if she leads you. You've got to be a potential ledger winner. I'm telling you, she is a really good bitch. Really good. But I would say, yeah, I do think Priceless Jet came out on top. But I'll be watching more closely, not for the result next week, but for how he tracks.
Okay. One I'm going to mention is great name that. Obviously he's well found. Like we know what he's capable of. He's a 27.96 in his card at 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗶 Park. He's looked an absolute powerhouse. But with each start, he seems to be showing a bit more early speed. The other night, he looked a bit lost in the opening corner, ran off, caused bad traffic in what was the slowest of the heats, and he's beaten 5.5 lengths and ahead in 30.60. Like, it doesn't look like Ledger winning form, but there's no question with the run or two around Limerick, he will greatly improve for that. He's in one again the next night, perhaps a slight concern the way he ran off the other night, but I've no doubt if this fellow starts putting it in the early yards and staying tight enough to the fence, which he does normally, he'll be very hard to keep out of the frame most nights. A fast greyhound, lads.
The only thing I'd say about him is that the other night, I would forgive him a lot the other night, because he got tight where he tried to go through along the inside, and then he decided, well, the best course of action is to go wide down the back, and then it's not a natural position for him to be in, and he went to go inside again at the third bend, got squeezed up bad, he was checked back. He actually did well to qualify. I mean, he could easily have finished 5th or 6th in that heat for all the trouble he got. He's a really fast dog. I don't know if he's going to have enough early pace to win the Ledger, but he's a dog you definitely see. The way he even, honestly, I know this is a very slow time, 30.60, but just the pace he showed to qualify was impressive. We know he has it from his runs in 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗶. Yeah, he's going to go a long way.
Tommy, of all the dogs, was something else that caught your eye? Like, obviously, we've mentioned Price's Jet, who was, it seems, top of your list. Obviously, we haven't mentioned 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗏 yet, but is there anything else that caught your eye?
What did we make of 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗏? That wasn't...
I just thought it looked like a dog that had probably hadn't been asked to do very much since the Derby final. And I would say they decided, let's just take it easy with him, let him in and find his way through the competition. And I would say we'll see a considerably sharper 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗏 the next night.
Yeah, I think Peter probably got to concur with that, but he just I was disappointed. At the same time, he did show his pace in places, but next, like what you said, we've talked about during the Derby how good Liam Dowling is at getting his dogs, progressing them nicely and getting them to peak at the end of competitions, as you'd want. I just worry that the next round will be a fair test, and if he's going to go out of the Ledger at an early stage, it'll be next week. Otherwise, he could go all the way to the final.
Yeah, I thought just 𝘁𝗹𝗏𝗏 was the only problem the next night in terms of he'll go up strongly from the middle, but he won't move in on him. I just thought 𝘁𝗹𝗏𝗏 had a chance of leading. Like, if you actually look at his heat the next night, he did a 287 the other night, which is hard to believe. I'll have to check that one up again, but nothing else in the heat got close to that. The nearest to it was 𝘁𝗹𝗏𝗏 with a 294. Now, we know 𝘁𝗹𝗏𝗏𝗏 is much more a natural starter than he showed the last night. He could easily do a 285 the next night, so that's worth keeping in mind. But no, I think 𝘁𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 will improve for it. Peter?
Yeah, he was a bit unlucky the last night. No, I do think he came in a bit undercooked as well. He did fade a little bit up the home straight, but he was the meat and the sandwich early on too with 𝘹𝗶𝗴𝗏𝗏 and 𝘁𝗹𝗏𝗏𝗏. Again, I think he'll lead up early next Saturday night. I think we could see a different dog. I think Shane Dowling mentioned in one of his interviews, both him and great name that may not have been around Limerick. I know he qualified in Limerick, but it's a long time ago, so it did look like a dog needed to look around as well.
Yeah, very much a consideration. Anything else, Tommy?
Nothing to get overexcited about him. No.
Peter, anything else caught your eye?
One more. JT Japan, I thought, run a good race. Again, Airmount, Nando and 𝘹𝗶𝗴𝗏𝗏𝗏 were having their own buckle up front, and he probably benefited from those two greyhounds getting on one another's road. But he did finish well. He finished very strongly, and I think he led into the pickup. Again, he might struggle early on, but again, he could go a few rounds, definitely.
He's certainly a dog with a big engine. He was bought around the same time as Price's Jet. They both ran in the Juvenile Classic at Tralee. JT Japan, he comes with a caveat. He has to have the fence, and he's been a dog that's just found lots of traffic, and confidence is probably an issue with him. But yeah, like you, I thought he ran on very strongly the other night. He's certainly a greyhound with plenty of pace and plenty of power. Whether he's sharp enough is the next question. But he is in trap 1 the next night, and Feudal Spirits in 2, who does have a tendency just to edge off a true line from the inside. So he could have a clear run. It's not the hottest of the heats, but no, JT Japan certainly one to keep in mind. Tommy, you were going to jump in there.
What do you make of Black Parachute? He's a dog I always kind of struggle to figure out, really, when it comes to the very top level.
We spoke of his brother.
Mm.
The fox dog, 𝘁𝗹𝗴𝗶𝗴𝗶. He's very similar to that. He probably lacks a yard of early, and when he finds traffic, it just tends to take him a while to get going again. I thought he showed plenty of pace and guile to get through the other night. After he was in the heat where great name that took half the field out of it at the opening corner, and he was one of the main sufferers, because not only did he get done on the opening corner, but he was actually in a decent pitch off the second bend. It got done again. And he gathered himself up again, and to be finishing, he actually finished second. He's beaten 3.5 lengths in the second spot. He's in one the next night, which will certainly help. Although Blast Off Fire is in trap 2, he'd have to lead Blast Off Fire, because if he doesn't, Blast Off Fire will hold the rails pitch on him. And that will be the issue. You'd have to go around them. It's a relatively good heat. There's a lot of strong runners in it. Rockburst Mike, 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶, even Magical Jasper ran well the other night, and 𝘁𝗲𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 ran well behind 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶 Kingdom, when you consider how fast 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶 Kingdom was going. But no, listen, Black Parachute, we saw what he could do in his prep run on October 24th. He did the 29:48 run. It was a serious run off a 283 sectional. The problem is those 283 sectionals are 1 in 2, 1 in 3.
Yeah.
It's going to be the boxes that are going to be a decider, but there's no question that Black Parachute is perhaps as fast as any greyhound in the competition, and he's certainly one to keep in mind.
I think that's a great draw in the next round as well. I mean, Blast Off Fire being trap 2, you wouldn't expect Blast Off Fire to go up to the bend with Black Parachute. I wouldn't anyway, and I wouldn't expect, not that I know a huge amount about Rockburst Mike, I wouldn't expect him to go to the bend with him either. So it's a great chance for Black Parachute to either lead or tuck in very tight to 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶. And 𝘁𝗲𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 on the outside has a good bit of pace as well, a good bit of early pace. I think it's a great draw next week for Black Parachute. I find him a hard dog to kind of really put a finger on in terms of what he will achieve. At least in fairness to form, that he beat Congress Thunder. Congress Thunder ran very well the other night after getting plenty of trouble. Got badly squeezed. Was it
off the first bend or into the second bend? Was back 3 or 4 lengths and came charging into that third bend, took it up and went on again. I think a frustrating greyhound, but there's no question he has the engine. He's a couple of massive runs on his card. One particular, I think it's around Cork. Is it, Tommy?
He has form in I'll say it again, will I? He has form in Youghal. The Congress Thunder, actually, I just thought that he actually broke in front. He couldn't get to the bend. Just didn't have that pace to get into the bend, and that cost him, that put him in trouble actually. But ran a superb race actually afterwards. But look at it, I know he's going to win a Ledger now or anything like that, but it's just a dog that might go a couple of rounds.
In the same heat, 𝘹𝗻𝗻𝗄. He did a 280 the other night, Peter. Like, that's fair racing to the opening corner. He's a dog that really caught the eye in his previous 2 starts at Shelbourne Park, but this was his first step up to 550. Couldn't hold 𝘹𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶. He's beaten 2.5 in 29:99, but as we said, that was one of the later runs. It was a big run by 𝘹𝗻𝗻𝗄. Ger Kiley certainly knows his way around a top class greyhound. It'd be no surprise to see him go a few rounds, especially if he continues to go up like that. And given his sectionals and his form in recent weeks, it's likely he will go up again like that.
Yeah, he ran really well. I thought he did nothing wrong. He got across 𝘹𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 early on, which is, that's no mean feat to get across 𝘹𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶 from where he was drew. He definitely struggled in the last 25 yards. He did notably fade. But again, he's coming in a fresh dog as well, straight out from Shelbourne Park. A couple of brilliant runs around there. It's a tough draw the next night. Great name that, Congress Thunder, both on the inside of him. But 280, that was the fastest of the night. I think 𝘁𝗴𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶 was next best, 281. But no,
he stayed out wide, 𝘁𝗴𝗴𝗶𝗶𝗶. He of course is related to, he's a brother to Unlock and Lock, who of course we must mention is a brother to a sister to 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶 and 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶, both of which ran so well at Nottingham on Saturday night. It's a hell of a litter. The Matthews clan have that Tom's Delight. She's been some rude bitch for them. And no doubt, given the likes of Unlock and Lock, they'll be hoping that her progeny will produce in the future as well. By all accounts, lads, I'm just looking through the 8 heats. They're fairly well spread out, but there's certainly three dogs in each heat that are capable of going well in a Ledger. There are 1 or 2 stars at the head of the market, the likes of the 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶 New Win Session, the other dogs that caught the eye, like Black Parachute, great name that. They'll all be prominent in the betting, but this is a Ledger that could really develop into a fairly hot competition fairly quickly. Like, if you take the best 3 of those 8 heats next Saturday night, you're left with a hell of a 24.
Yeah, he certainly Because it's going to be a really hot competition. I mean, we're here after round one. We've seen them all running, and we're probably struggling. I am anyway struggling to have a clear favourite. You know, I think is an absolute standout. There's a lot of good dogs there. Liam Dowling's dogs. Some of them might need me to the head of the market, but like, you know, in terms of maybe not vying for favouritism, but you know they're going to be there at the end of the competition. You just know it. He's got that many dogs that are just brewing at that level, just bubbling up to try to get to the very top level. I think it's going to be a cracking competition. We'll know a huge amount more, I think, after round two. I think we just learned so much more about how some of the dogs that might have struggled with the track first time, they'll struggle again. Some of them will have coped with it. They'll learn quite a bit, and I think we'll know a huge amount more next Monday morning.
Peter, you're the man that's going to be setting the scene on Talking Dogs for us. You'll be doing the previews, reviews. It's easier to talk about good dogs, and by God, this is going to be easy to talk about because there's some really, really exceptional dogs left there.
It's wide open, and there's a few we still haven't talked about. But yeah, it's definitely going to take a bit of winning. I mean, the Laurels was brilliant, and we struggled to get a final as good as that. But no, it's definitely going to take a bit of winning this Leger. I would still go with New Sensation, outright favourite. I know 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶 was the initial favourite, but again, he will come forward. But New Sensation, for me, he's a dog that's going to improve, and he would be the one that I would be very, very hot on.
I think the whole greyhound world is waiting for New Sensation just to explode, and just to really take off, because you know we've seen just glimpses. You know, obviously he won his first 6 starts. He looked a really, really sensational tracker in his early career. You know, winning the stake down at 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗶. Like, if you look at the names he actually beat in 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗶, including his brother 𝘁𝗲𝗴𝗶𝗶, who we saw setting such a serious pace at Nottingham on Saturday night. And then, of course, he ran so well in the early rounds of the Produce Stakes, got knocked out in the semi-finals, and that's where not the wheels fell off by any stretch of imagination, but got knocked out at the Derby. Big run the opening round of the English Derby, disappointed in the second round, but here we are now in the Leger, and perhaps after those experiences, we are going to see the very best of New Sensation. There's no question he's a very, very talented greyhound. Yeah, cracking competition, and I like you, Peter. I would tend to agree. I would keep New Sensation perhaps at the head of the market because of the sheer what if factor. If the penny drops, this greyhound is potentially very, very special indeed. And given the strength of his kennel and the kennel companions around him, it's no mean statement to say that he could potentially be the fastest in the kennel, despite the fact that there's also a Derby winner there. But yeah, it's going to be a great Leger. I'm going to take you back now to Nottingham on Saturday night, lads, just for a brief moment or two. We have to reference it. Another 1, 2, 3 for Ireland in the English Derby. From the outset, Tommy, you were pretty insistent that if the Irish dogs weren't there, it was going to be a poor enough English Derby. They had found a star, Southwood Jet. He missed the kick the other night, but in the end, a brilliant display by Pat Buckley, created a bit of history, became only the 3rd man to win an Irish, English and Scottish Derby, and Dear Jet Sydney, a tremendous winner on the night, and a big run by 2nd and 3rd also.
Yeah, and you can see what I meant to Pat Buckley. They showed it on the RPG TV the other night. You know,
just take a moment there. His daughter Emma, like, she has emerged as some superstar. Like, she was brilliant the other night.
Yeah, she was again. Very emotional, in fairness, and you know, you can read from their faces how much it just means to them to win it, and then to see Pat jumping around. I mean, that's unusual. You know what I mean? How much it means. He's tried for a while to win an English Derby. He's finally got there. And in fairness to him, you know, the way when you like to have a betting, you know, you always look for an angle to go against something if it's short or whatever. And Dear Jet Sydney, all I could hear people talking about for the last few weeks was just the latter end of the competition. You start to miss the kick, you start to do things wrong. Come the final, bang, you know, out and gone. He was. I'd be remiss in me now, and Barry wouldn't talk to me again if I didn't mention the fact that Eddie Lingan reared the greyhound here in Cork, and Eddie's a regular around y'all, so if I have to give that a mention, just
how would he have felt as they entered the back straight 1st and 2nd himself from Smurf Machine? I'd imagine the language just choice out front.
Yeah, I'd say so. In fairness to him, Eddie's a gent, and I tell you what, he brought the dog to y'all. I think the dog did 17.50 in a trial around y'all before they ever raced, which is absolutely phenomenal stuff. The track back then as well would have been slower than it is running at the moment. Like, it was, you know, he knew at the start that he had a star in his hands. You know, and he's never shy to bring them to y'all, which is a good sign for us locally. I mean, that, you know, that the track obviously still respected in the sense that if you can do a clock around here, you can do it anywhere. The other dog, the won the Derby a few years ago. His name, Taylor Skye. He started off in Youghal as well. I nearly lost his name there for a second. But 𝘹𝗲𝗴𝗶 Sydney, look, in fairness to Pat Buckley, he's handled them particularly well. It is difficult, you know. You're over there for, I know this year is only 4 weeks, but you're over there for 4 weeks, and you're trying to keep everything right. And when things don't, you know, it's a tricky track. Nottingham. The dog looked like it wasn't entirely suited to it on occasion, but just come the final night, he bombed out. 𝘹𝗶𝗴𝗶 was a dog that has a local connection in Limerick and I think 𝘁𝗹𝗶𝗴𝗶 maybe in Cork. He, to me, was probably the most likely winner going into the final because he coped so well with trap one in the semi-final. He didn't seem to cope with it in the final, whatever reason that might have been, just missed the kick. But 𝘹𝗴𝗴𝗶 Sydney just took advantage. I thought 𝘹𝗹𝗴𝗶𝗴𝗏 ran a superb race, actually, didn't come out of the pack to finish second. I thought for
𝘹𝗹𝗴𝗏𝗏 is as brave as a lion. We knew that, and he's a dog that relishes. He thrives in racing.
For a brief second, I thought that actually he was going to get there. Like that would have been an absolutely phenomenal run because 𝘹𝗴𝗴𝗶 Sydney was going fast, and 𝘹𝗴𝗴 Sydney, as we know, is a really top dog. So yeah, it was a great result. Ian. We did say from the start that the English dogs didn't look that strong. I thought they might have found one in 𝘹𝗶𝗴𝗏, but when it came to the crunch, the Irish dogs rose to the top, as I think you insisted they would all along.
I absolutely certainly did. I left myself out there to be shot at. And then, Peter, it was a great result for Ireland. I'm sure you took great pleasure in watching it on Saturday night.
Yeah, he ran a cracker as well, 𝘹𝗴𝗴𝗏 Sydney. Out in front, it probably wasn't Pat Buckley's main hope going over when he had Doolan Duke and 𝘁𝗹𝗏𝗶𝗏, but I thought he took the track really well. Like Tommy, I thought that 𝘹𝗹𝗴𝗏𝗏𝗏 was going to nab him down the back straight, but he pulled out a bit more coming home. It's great to see Pat takes a big team over there every year as well, so it's nice to see him get the Triple Crown as well. Just a wee word on Wolf. He unfortunately picked up an injury, but
yeah, he did ligaments in the back of the hock. By all accounts, he's strapped up. He's retired from racing. By all accounts, Tommy, you know, he's been a very special dog. I'm going to let Tommy speak about Wolf because obviously the Maloney's owned and bred him and reared him, and he's been a special greyhound. But for those down in your part of the world, he's been an extra special greyhound.
Yeah, he has. I think the Maloney family run an awful lot of dogs in Youghal. They're only out the road to Castlemartyr. You know what? I know you can say this about a lot of people, but they breed a good line. They always have. They've always looked for a good dam line. They've always used a good dam line. And you know, I think if you stick at that, and you know, if things don't work out for you, you stick with it. What should be a winning formula. It's come to the fore in the last number of years. You know, they've had really fast dogs. Sonic was a machine as well. I'm just delighted that Wolf got a chance to win a big classic, to win an Easter Cup, because he is a special dog. The family deserve it. They put a huge amount into it. They're not a family you hear a lot about. They don't really like to be in the limelight too much. I do remember though that Pat, when he was up for the Derby runs a few years ago, was a bit of a character. Pat Maloney, he is a good character. I
interviewed him said day, and I'll concur. He's very much a character.
They're deeply passionate about greyhound racing. Deeply passionate about it. They love the greyhounds, and they've had success. They've had dogs that have almost got there, almost got there. Thankfully, Wolf won an Easter Cup, and again, he looked like he had a chance in the final. Things didn't go right, unfortunately for him. He'll retire. He'll have a stud career. He's a smashing dog. So I'm delighted for him that you know he's achieved something big. A bit unlucky. They've been unlucky in Derby finals. I think they'll get there someday. Please God.
Well, that's it. I think we've basically covered the English Derby. I hope we've certainly covered, well, much of the ledger. We mentioned as many dogs as we could. There's still 48 left. Peter, you're the man that's going to have to put it on the page for us. You're going to have to set the scene. And as I said, previews, reviews. I hope we've taken your attention off the defeat of Tyrone over the weekend. I hope we've done our bit now to counsel you through this hard time, Peter.
That's forgotten about already. That's forgotten about. I was forgotten at the final whistle yesterday. We'll be back next year.
I've been listening to that a few years. Anyway, that's it for Talking Ledger. This was the first installment, but remember, we'll be back next Monday for the second installment of Talking Ledger. 48 greyhounds will become 24 at Limerick on Saturday night. If the right 24 are there, this is a very, very special competition indeed. Enjoy the next few weeks. It's going to be an epic ledger.